What's up, cubers? My name's Kenneth. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 cubes that seem easy, but are actually deceptively hard. Let's get started. Before we look at the first one, I want to talk about what I really like about deceptively difficult puzzles. And the most famous one is definitely the Rubik's Cube, because almost everyone, when they first pick up a Rubik's Cube, they make a couple moves and they think, hey, you know what? It's only a few moves away. I should be able to get it back. They quickly get lost. Any progress that they make, they lose. And it is a lot harder than it might seem. And so that's something I really like about puzzles. So in this video, we're going to explore some of those puzzles that are a lot harder than they seem, ones that took me a lot longer to solve than I thought. And we're going to talk about what it is about those puzzles that make them so difficult. So we're going to start with number 5, and this is the Axial cube or the Axis cube. This puzzle is actually just a Rubik's Cube mod. And so when you first find out that this is just a Rubik's Cube mod, it's got just, you know, the same 6 centers and 8 corners and 12 edges that a normal Rubik's Cube has. It just uses the same algorithms a normal Rubik's Cube uses. You might think, you know, I can solve a Rubik's Cube, I can solve this, and I'll be able to solve it fast. And I found out that that's just not the case. When I got this puzzle the first time, it took me much longer than I expected. I actually pulled out the camera. I was going to record my first solve, and I was going to kind of show off that, you know, this puzzle's not that hard. I was obviously humbled, and it took me, I don't remember, maybe half an hour or longer to solve it. I thought it was only going to be 3 to 5 minutes to solve it, and I was very wrong about that. So yeah, this puzzle, the way it scrambles is it obfuscates the Rubik's Cube. The pieces, you don't know what piece is what. It becomes one big, huge mess, and it's hard to solve. So yeah, this one's definitely deceptively hard. If you think you can solve a Rubik's Cube and you can, you know, first try get this, good luck. You might be able to do it, but for me, I found it to be very difficult for my first solve. So the next puzzle we're talking about is the Gear Cube Extreme. And this puzzle you might think is really easy, especially if you've solved the Gear Cube. The Gear Cube obviously is an easy puzzle. The puzzle doesn't get that scrambled. The edges, when they're misoriented, they are oriented in groups of 4. So if I want to orient these 4, it's actually really easy. I just spin this side 4 times and it's solved. But on the Gear Cube Extreme, what this does is these 4 edges here don't have the gears in them, and that allows you to turn the top and bottom layers independently without the kind of bandaged geared moves. And that allows this puzzle to get fully scrambled, and it becomes much more challenging. In fact, these edges can be independently oriented, and you could have only one edge turned one tooth. And you have to find algorithms for that. And then the normal algorithms that you have for Rubik's Cube don't work on this puzzle, because all the standing layers, like the right layer, left layer, front layer, back layer, you have to do those in like double moves. You have to do a right 2. So if you only did a right, you'd be up here. You wouldn't be able to do an up move. This puzzle gets extremely scrambled, extremely difficult. The algorithms you have probably aren't going to work, so you're going to have to figure it all out yourself. And yeah, so this one's much harder than you might expect, especially if you've already solved the Gear Cube. So next up, we have the Molecube. The goal of the Molecube is to make sure that every side has 9 different colors with no repeats. And you can see right now, there are no repeats on any of these sides, so this is in the solved state. And you might think this puzzle is easy because it actually turns and looks exactly like a Rubik's Cube. But what's really difficult is to find a valid solution. And there's actually quite a few valid solutions, but you have to actually find the solution and then move it into that solution. You might think that finding the solution is easy, but no, it's not. It's actually pretty difficult, and it takes a lot of practice to figure out a good new solution for it. If you were to just take a picture of this cube and then try to solve it right back to that photograph you took, then it's not a big deal. It's really easy. It's just a Rubik's Cube. But if you actually try to find these solutions for this puzzle, then it's challenging. And yeah, it's a lot harder than you might think. So next up, we have the Curvy Copter. Now this is a fascinating puzzle, and one thing that I think is really cool is that these kind of center triangle pieces, like the one with the Tom Z signature, those pieces are in separate orbits. In fact, you can't switch this piece and that piece by just doing these edge turning moves. So if I do that edge turning move, this piece is now on this side. It can only be on right here on this side. I can't put this piece there. I can't put this piece here. It can only be here on this side. And so there's only 6 places this piece can go. On this side, it can only be there. On this side, it can only be here. On this side, it can only be there. It can only be here. And back to the yellow side, it can only be there. So it only has 6 positions. And because of that, this puzzle doesn't get all that scrambled. It's, you know, not that hard to solve. But if that were all that this puzzle had to offer, it wouldn't be on this list, would it? It actually has a really cool hidden trick, and that is you can turn an edge just about that far and then turn another edge. And what happens is the puzzle jumbles. And so now this kind of yellow piece here has been popped out of its orbit and it's shoved over here. And I can now solve this back into a cube and I can put it in a different orbit. And that would be kind of equivalent to this Rubik's Cube. If I were able to like pop this edge piece out and put it back in flipped. So using these jumbled moves on a Curvy Copter, it's kind of the same thing as flipping a single edge on a Rubik's Cube. And so you have to then use those jumbling moves again to get the cube back into a solvable orbit, and then you can solve it. So yeah, anyway, it's just super fascinating, and it makes it pretty difficult once you throw in all these jumbling moves. And yeah, I think it's just very fascinating, awesome, fun puzzle. If you're interested, I do have tutorials for this. The number one puzzle I chose is the 2x2. And the reason I chose this puzzle is because out of all the puzzles in my collection, this one is one where when I'm playing with like a Rubik's Cube is often picked up by somebody and they'll definitely say, hey, I might not be able to solve a Rubik's Cube, but surely I can solve a 2x2. And that's happened so many times. And I think it's always really fun when people do that and they pick it up and I say, sure, go ahead, give it a try. And I love that. You know, it doesn't take long where they'll start playing with it and they'll soon discover that maybe they spoke a little too soon. Maybe this puzzle is a little bit harder than they thought it might be. And that's just something I really like and I think is a lot of fun. And yeah, that's just, like I said, I like that about all my puzzles is they all seem like they should be easy. But for the 2x2, I think this one is exceptionally deceptive because it looks much simpler than a Rubik's Cube and yet it still packs quite the punch. And I think that's really awesome. The final thing I wanted to cover with challenging puzzles like these is I just love coming up with my own solutions for them. It's extremely gratifying solving a hard puzzle, especially one that requires you to develop critical thinking and problem solving skills. If you want to learn how to come up with your own algorithms to solve puzzles like these, then you should check out the sponsor for this week's video, Brilliant.org. Brilliant is a problem solving website that teaches you through actual problem solving in a guided sequence. They cover a variety of topics like logic, computer science algorithms, and even group theory. You'll like that they set the Rubik's Cube in a language of group theory, which helps you understand how the algorithms work, instead of just memorizing them blindly. Soon you'll come across a seemingly easy problem that's actually really hard, and you'll be proud to have the skills to solve it yourself. It's pretty cool. To support my channel and to learn more about Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/redKB and sign up for free. Also, the first 200 people that go to that link will get 20% off the annual premium subscription. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Thanks guys for watching, and of course, have a great day.